What's up, comrades? Today we are going to be talking about James Damore. Now, first a bit of backstory. Who is James Damore? James Damore was the Google employee who wrote a memo bringing light to many of Google's biases. For doing this, Google fired him. So, what does this memo say? I will be reading out some key parts of it to give you an idea of what this man believed. I am not going to scream social justice warrior at Google, or scream misogynist or racist at Damore, but I'm going to be comparing this occasion to others which have happened. The first thing in the memo is James Damore's response to public response and misrepresentation from his perspective. He carries on with, "I value diversity and inclusion. I am not denying that sexism exists, and don't endorse using stereotypes. When addressing the gap in representation in the population, we need to look at population-level differences in distributions. If we can't have an honest discussion about this, then we can never truly solve the problem. Psychological safety is built on mutual respect and acceptance, but unfortunately our culture of shaming and misrepresentation is disrespectful and unaccepting of anyone outside its echo chamber." Despite what the public response seems to have been, I've got many personal messages from fellow Googlers expressing their gratitude for bringing up these very important issues which they agree with, but would never have the courage to say or defend because of our shaming culture and the possibility of being fired. This needs to change. This is just the first paragraph, and we already get an idea of what Damore is saying. According to him, many other Google employees felt the exact same way that he did, but wouldn't voice it out due to the threat of being fired. He continued with an introductory phase to his research. "People generally have good intentions, but we all have biases which are invisible to us. Thankfully, open and honest discussion with those who disagree can highlight our blind spots and help us grow, which is why I wrote this document. Google has several biases, and honest discussion about these biases is being silent by the dominant ideology. What follows is by no means a complete story, but it's a perspective that desperately needs to be told at Google." Yes, we all do have biases. Indeed, no truer words could have been spoken. Google is a company made up of a hierarchy of managers and employees. Of course, those managers in positions of authority do indeed have some biases, as no one is completely unbiased. That's impossible. I try to minimize my bias towards subjects myself, but I can't judge everything through an absolute neutral framework. I don't have all the answers myself either. To say I have would just be kidding myself. Just like me, Damore is a humble individual. He's not trying to take down his parent company, he's just telling them what's wrong. Damore continues, "At Google, we talk so much about unconscious bias as it applies to race and gender, but we rarely discuss our moral biases. Political orientation is actually a result of deep moral preferences, and thus biases. Considering that the overwhelming majority of the social sciences, media, and Google lean left, we should critically examine these prejudices." Yeah, absolutely. What separates a fascist from an anarchist is much less than you'd think. But the key difference is very important. This is their view on human nature. Fascists believe humans are destructive and must be controlled to maintain stability and prosperity. On the other hand, anarchists believe humans are cooperative and are able to function more effectively without authoritarian institutions for them to achieve self-actualization. Views on human nature is just one difference, but that difference is huge. I get exactly where Damore is coming from. Damore offers his analysis of the left-right divide he's talking about, bringing attention to three key areas which determine if someone has left or right views. These are as follows for the left. 1. Seek compassion for the weak. 2. Disparities are due to injustice. 3. Humans are inherently cooperative. For the right, he lists as follows. 1. Respect for the strong/authority. 2. Disparities are natural and just. And 3. Humans are inherently competitive. This trend towards the nature versus nurture debate with leftists in his view strongly preferring nurture and rightists preferring nature. What's clear from reading Damore's work is he's not biased either way. He's not doing this for the alt-right. He's doing this analysis because something didn't add up to him. Damore was already concerned with Google's authoritarian crackdown on controversial content, especially that which promoted right-wing views. The CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, is a well-known liberal. Here she is meeting with the fat brown buffalo man himself, Cenk Uygur, who is well known for his liberal news network on YouTube, The Young Turks. There's 2 footnotes which follow. The first says, "This document is mostly written from the perspective of Google Mountain View campus. I can't speak about other officers or countries." See? Even though much of the alt-right is trying to claim him as one of them, he's very much against that. I respect that myself because I can see Damore as almost my equivalent in terms of our ways of approaching subjects. Here's his second one. "Of course, I may be biased and only see evidence that suits my viewpoint. In terms of political biases, I consider myself a classical liberal and strongly value individualism and reason. I'd be very happy to discuss any of the document further and provide more citations." Alright, I'm not a classical liberal, I'm an individualist communist who believes in classless stateless society. We are both very libertarian oriented and we have no interest in silencing opposition views. Just like me, Damore is willing to listen to the other side his colleagues tell him to never look into. Just like a true intellectual, he tells these close-minded bigots to go fuck themselves. Very commendable, James. If you want to read more of his memo that I haven't covered here, I'll link it in the description. I strongly recommend you read the whole thing. He goes into a lot of detail about various subjects that concern him, and there's a lot more than I could cover here. So, I'll put it in the description, read it. Yeah, I strongly recommend it. Alright, you can't miss this one, honestly. What is interesting about his case is the reaction of the media. Let's see what The Guardian has to say about this. "Google's sexist memo has provided the alt-right with a new matriarch." Bang! Straight in there with accusations of sexism, when if you read the entire memo, there's nothing sexist within. Damore actually points out why he thinks things are the way they are, and they call him sexist because he didn't go 100% nurture, and instead said, "Oh, well, on average, less women desire leadership roles than men. It's just in their personality. This is a fact. We are just like apes. Males are more likely to desire leadership roles, and therefore they get more leadership roles." Am I or Damore saying that women are unsuitable for leadership roles? No, we are not. So how are we being sexist? I can already hear the crowds of angry feminists screaming at their monitors saying I'm a reactionary, but really, the data is on my side, and it's on Damore's side. And for you, Damore, I wish you the best with your attempts to sue for their discrimination against your views based on evidence-based analysis of the situation at your workplace. Where has this happened before? Well, it's happened to me. Yes, that's right. It has happened to Comrade Kalashnikov himself. When I started talking to ANCAPs to build common ground, that's when many of the ANCOMs lost respect for me. Just because I, and another anarchist on YouTube known as Operation Anarchism, desire to explore these other ideas and escape the radical left echo chamber, that's when we get persecuted. And if I dare suggest that nature affects us as well as nurture, that's when I get called a misogynist or a racist for saying there's a reason why they do this, and it's to do with them as a person, not just the environment around them. Saying this as a radical leftist is a big no-no. To be a true radical leftist, you have to disregard nature in these situations and say that there are just as many women who want to be in leadership roles than men, when the evidence just doesn't add up for that at all. I got called sexist. I was essentially ostracized and silenced by most of the radical left. My crime? Being a free thinker. It is objective truth that less women desire leadership roles than men, and saying this doesn't mean I think women are unfit for leadership roles. That's a straw man, and you know it. Many feminists talk about the problems of women not getting raises, but the reason for this is that on average, men are more assertive than females, and assertiveness is a prominent leadership trait. Therefore, if we connect the dots, there will be more assertive people in leadership positions, and on average, men are more assertive than women. The reason I made this video is because I strongly emphasize with Damore's situation. We are both freethinkers who get persecuted by the dogma warriors who require you to believe certain things, or you have no right to call yourself one of us. Damore, I wish you the best, and I'll always be on your side for as long as you remain open to all ideas. The lesson here is, don't succumb to dogma, as much as the powers that be want you to.
Deep in my heart and deep in my mind, deep in the depths of my ego, deep in my breast lies a treasure chest, a world that only I can know.